Steph, today is a very important day. It's a critical day. John Lynch has to cook. What are we saying about that stuff?
It is a big day, Jay, and it's because it's your birthday, dude. Come on
Uh,
now, come
dude,
on. He's got the birthday cut going, got the birthday chain going. I see you out there. But no, like in all seriousness, I've appreciated your friendship, not just on this podcast, but outside of it as well. You're a great guy, and just happy to call you a friend. And happy birthday, my friend.
thank you, Steph. Thank you, Rob. It's it is what it is. Birthdays are usually a time for reflection. You start to think about, what you've done and what you intend to do, and at this point in my age, all I really care about is being, good to the people that are close to me and being a good father, and that's all I really care about. Shout out to Jim Everett and his Rams and everything. Shout out to everybody. Thank you guys so much for all the birthday well wishes. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about this critical day for the 49ers and what they'll do. So today we're going to run down all the trade deadline acquisitions already. Zadarius Smith, it felt like that was a foregone conclusion that Detroit would be all over that following the loss of Aiden Hutchinson. The Cowboys traded for Jonathan Mingo. Sorry. I didn't mean to laugh that hard at that, but okay. Hey, our quarterback's down. Let's just get another receiver who can't really separate. Way to go, Jerry Jones.
Respect
you really,
Cooper Rush, pal.
You really know ball, Jerry Jones. My God. And what else? Khalil Herbert goes to Cincinnati after the neck injury to Zach Moss. And it looks like we just got Marshawn Lattimore going to the Washington Commanders. Adam Peters is all over this with Washington and going all in. Washington's pretty good. What would you say about any of these deadline acquisitions? And would you have liked the 49ers to go ahead and move for one?
I would have liked the 49ers to make a move just for entertainment purposes, like solely just because I think every NFL fan wants their team to make a move just because, except for the Cowboys. Like, if it's a terrible move, like nobody wants to see that. I think the Mingo move was terrible. But
That's
wow, how about the Commanders, man? I mean, they're going for it as well. They should be. Like, they're top of their division right now, 7-2 young core that they have, and they're making moves. You love to see it for them. 49ers, on the other hand, of course, seem to be sitting on their hands. Although, like we're seeing reports, right, of certain players that are fielding calls, or teams that are fielding calls for certain players. The Titans, for example, Jeffrey Simmons, Arden Key, Sebastian Joseph Day. Just tell us the 49ers are the team calling. Like, come on. There's nothing that is more obvious than that, right?
Yeah.
Like, two former 49ers listed there. The obvious connection between, Titans, Carthon, and the 49ers. And yeah, so like I think there's still time, right? Like, there's still a couple hours left in this thing. So I wouldn't say the 49ers aren't going to make a move, but I think it, as with every move, it has to be at the right price.
Right. And the Azeez Ojulari thing is a great idea because he is very young, but he will need to be paid next season. So that would be looked at as a high-end rental. The names that I've kind of had my eyes on are Dalvin Tomlinson from Cleveland. I would love to have him at defensive tackle. It seems like the Browns season is dead in the water. Same goes for the Titans. So Arden Key is a natural one. And I'm going to throw out one more. If we're talking about old buddies, someone who's fallen out of favor in Tennessee, I don't see the issue in sending a 7th-round pick for Daniel Brunskill and bringing him back and just having him around just in case for depth. It's about being proactive and not reactive. Realistically, it feels like the 49ers, if they make any sort of move, would be very low end. Another name that you should be out there looking at with the way that Carolina is selling everything, Jadeveon Clowney. Now, Jadeveon Clowney was billed as a pass rusher when he came into the league, but he's very good against the run. He is somebody who has a high-end motor, who can still do things, and maybe locking in with the rest of these guys will help. It wouldn't cost you anything to get Dalvin Tomlinson, Arden Key, Jadeveon Clowney, or Daniel Brunskill. I think at wide receiver, they're set with what they have. If you're looking at somebody who you want is depth, and it has to be depth because nobody's going to jump over Debo, Jawan Jennings, and Ricky Pearsall. Perhaps somebody like Adam Thielen, and then maybe old buddy Kendrick Bourne, like just to be around, just to be there. It felt like the Patriots were kind of showcasing him against the Titans this week. Which, by the way, I've got to say, when your team doesn't play and you're on a bye week, it is like a completely different experience. But and this is what Brian Baldinger said about it, and he seems to think the same way I do. If I was John Lynch, I would pick up the phone and call Dan Morgan in Carolina and just see what it would take to get Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney is better than Chase Young. He plays the game harder. He's an elite athlete. He brings juice to your team. He's not a good pass rusher. Chase wasn't either, but he brings a ton of energy. He's incredible length. He's excellent against the run. Again, it really wouldn't take much. You know, the Azeez Ojulari thing is going to cost you valuable draft capital that you're going to need to hit on your next draft next season as well, too, while we're stacking these draft class, because this draft class has done so well so far.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a swing at Ojulari, it would have to be if you intend on re-signing him
Right.
to a deal after. And
Right.
so that would make the pick worth it theoretically, right? But I don't know if the 49ers want to do that at this point for the reasons you mentioned. Like, it would take probably a day 2 pick at this point. There's also some players that are getting, released, like Quentin Jefferson, defensive tackle for the Browns, got released. If the 49ers are looking for depth and they're not looking at giving up draft capital, like if that's the hang up here, I mean, that could be an option for them to just kind of bolster up the depth there. And I'm sure there could be some other names too that end up getting released, as some players, disgruntled players, maybe requesting trades at the deadline. If it doesn't happen, they're gonna then be granted their release. So we'll see what happens. Like, there's a lot that can shake up in the next couple of hours. But yeah, definitely some names that continue to intrigue me for the 49ers. Jay, let me ask you about this. Why the hell is Tyreek Hill currently the 49ers have the second best odds to trade for Tyreek Hill per Bovada? Like, why? Who started this, and why in God's name would the Dolphins even trade him?
ML football started this, and NFL rooms, and
it's Vegas though. Like, that's Vegas.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Absolutely
no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to
happen. The 49ers don't need, it's not that they don't need Tyreek Hill. It's just like, that's redundant. Like, that's not going to, in my opinion, what the 49ers have going on offense with everybody and the way that this offense works, it doesn't make sense to blow all that up for an expensive wide receiver who's great, by the way. He's one of the best receivers in the league. But also, you got to remember, Miami and Mike McDaniel, he might be playing and coaching for his job a little bit here, and he needs to win games.
Yeah.
So what's the sense of trading away a weapon like that when your whole offense is geared to getting him the ball? This is absolutely ML football, NFL rooms. This feels like one of those Ricky, like updates, like the dog, remember? Like, just come on, guys. Like, please, let's just use our head. Like, let's just think about this logically. This isn't Madden, and the 49ers aren't going to blow up something that they feel is going in the right direction, especially considering we've got some old buddies coming back, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Just stop with this one. This one's insane. There's no shot of this happening. If you want to throw your money away and donate, then put the 49ers down to get Tyreek Hill. If you want to donate to Vegas, you can do that.
I mean, you can use that same money, super chat us here as well.
It'll go to a better cause.
Yeah, going to a better cause than gambling. But yeah, I mean, I remember, what was it, like last week, Diana Rossini, who's been on top of all of these like trade deadline reports and all of that, as far as like the 49ers, what she'd mentioned was the 49ers don't know if they're contenders or pretenders. And I agree. Like, I've been saying the same thing. I think like last week we were saying we didn't really learn anything after the 49ers last win. So I think it's a little of that too. It's like unsure if you should even invest in this current team. Let's just try the best effort we can get in with who we have, who we're getting back. Because we know Christian McCaffrey, Dre Greenlaw in a few weeks, like that's going to bolster up this team. But let's not invest too much and potentially ruin our future a little bit.
Yeah, just doesn't make sense. But Dazza, thank you for the super chat. Arden Key, Calais Campbell, or Clowney. Yeah. I think what would really boost this defense is a defensive tackle that has experience one way or another. And Arden Key has the flexibility to play inside, outside. Calais Campbell is somebody who, yeah, you're like, oh, he's 38 years old. But yeah, you know what? He's still productive and people still want his services. And Clowney as well will give you a run stopper. And I think we're worried about the run defense going into this. But a little bit more about this trade deadline thing. I just think John Lynch is going to push to all of us that, our trade deadline acquisition is Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Feliciano and possibly Drake Greenlaw and Jawan Jennings. And it's like, they were already on the team.
It's like, you don't need to lie to us.
Right. Like, don't don't spit on my head and call it rain. Like, come on, man. Don't, we feel good about this. Look, I wanted the 49ers to trade for Deontay Johnson, right? He ends up going to Baltimore. And I thought that was something where I didn't want a depth piece wide receiver. I wanted a needle mover, somebody who can get himself open, right? When that goes off the board, now, you know what? You drafted Ricky Pearsall. It looks like he's coming into his own. And then you still have Jacob Cowing. Obviously, Jennings is back. Debo's still there. It would be largely for depth at this point, not somebody who would step in at this point. So I don't think they're going to address wide receiver. Running back seems to be fine now. Christian McCaffrey's back. Jordan Mason is on the mend as well too. Isaac Guerendo's flashing. You look a lot better at that position than you thought you did. And then with linebacker, I just think that they're going to say, well, Greenlaw's going to be back. We can hold down the fort, for a while with Devondre Campbell, and then we'll go from there. Devondre Campbell has a chance to go from somebody who you don't want to see starting to somebody who's a valuable depth piece, because that's really what he should be. He should be behind someone else. He shouldn't really be playing all that much. Veteran presence, that's it, just depth. And then offensive line, it's tough to trade for impactful offensive linemen. I know everybody's going to point to the Minnesota trade for Cam Robinson. I have a news flash. Cam Robinson's not good. And there's a reason the Jaguars are trying to trade him. Like, if you're trying to move an offensive lineman, it's because, one, they've either fallen out of favor and someone's better in front of them and they feel like they can part with that. Or two, it's someone who's a name who just isn't good. So Minnesota loses Christian Darrisaw. They go get Cam Robinson. That didn't help them anything more than just having a guy who has played games in the NFL. That's what I can say about Cam Robinson. So it's hard to figure out where the 49ers will go at what position, given the status of everybody else in this league, given who's available, and given what they are willing to part with. I think it would be foolish for this team to part with high draft picks off of this draft class, where next year you're going to need that draft class to be just as good. Keep your high picks. And if you do give away a high pick, it's got to be for somebody who's going to be here long-term and is going to be a stud. And I know that's an oversimplification, but that's got to be the way that they're thinking right now. Right, Steph?
Yeah, which is probably why they haven't made a move to this point, because that's a certain criteria.
We got 90 minutes.
Maybe a lot of, there's certainly still time, but yeah, maybe to this point, it just hasn't been what they were hoping. And then I also think, like, due to the fact that the 49ers were on. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just seeing other news.
The Steelers just traded for Preston Smith.
Okay, yeah. I always look for the hashtag 49ers in any tweet I see come through, but no, that one did not have the Niners.
So the Steelers have added Preston Smith and Mike Williams at the deadline here. That's pretty good for them.
Yeah, and there's so much parity in the NFL this season that I think you're kind of seeing. Sure, there's like a bunch of teams that are bad, but there are a lot of mid teams right now. And a lot of those mid teams don't really know what to do. And so, like, a lot of them that haven't been in contention for a while are kind of just saying, let's go for it, right? On the other hand, the 49ers, who have been in contention for as many years as they have been, maybe, like, keep chilling a little bit. I still would love if they made a move. But, yeah, I think that's part of it. Like, the fact that this trade deadline kind of had to go through the wire, because I think there were so many teams that weren't sure if they were sellers or buyers yet. And I think that kind of hurt the 49ers, because I think they too did not know. And they still might not know if they should be buyers or sellers. They're definitely not sellers, but if they should buy. And I think all this waiting, like, we've seen so many trades happen in this, like, okay, let's wait and see. Let's gather more information, right? Like, there's been teams that have made trades. And so now, like, the list of guys that are available, it's like, maybe, like, I don't know. Pass rusher, there's definitely still some names that I like. But aside from that, wide receiver, like, Not after Deontay Johnson went. Like, I wasn't interested in
That was
pretty
it.
much it. Yeah, that was it. So yeah, there's really not much out there that would really tickle my fancy, and maybe the 49ers feel the same way.
Yeah, and Adam Thielen is somebody that's like, whatever. Like, it doesn't really
Yeah,
move the needle. I think at this point it's just,
whatever.
whatever. And then you think about what would it take to bring in the guys that I want, like a Dalvin Tomlinson and Arden Key. It would be low end picks, a pick swap, right? What's wrong with sending a fifth for Dalvin Tomlinson and a sixth, right? Like, and that's fine. You usually hit in the sixth. You're doing really good in those rounds, right? Again, like you don't have to give high up picks, right? Like it's not something that is, when we look at this team and how they're going to build everything out and who they have to pay, obviously Purdy and Ward and Lenore and whatever, right? It doesn't make sense to make a move and part with high picks when you're going to need those high picks to immediately step in for potential losses on both sides of the ball, one way or another. I think we all agree Aaron Banks is going to go. So what's up with left guard? What if this is the year that Trent Williams decides to go? Now what? Now you need a center, right? Maybe Jake Brendel's not a part of the plans. Like, this is the hard part, right? It has to be very much like pick swaps, end of the line draft picks, nothing crazy, nothing too exorbitant, because the 49ers put themselves in this position by doing all that and loading up. We all love Christian McCaffrey, and obviously that's why we're talking about this, because he's on his way back from the deadline. But it's second round picks, third round picks, you're giving those up. Like, you're giving those up for him. And it's hard to say that it hasn't been successful, but that's not how you're going to sustain your model of winning going forward when it's time to pay the bill with other people. And as we're seeing with the New Orleans Saints, the cap is very much real. So look, we've got less than 90 minutes, right? And trades can come out after. They just have to be submitted before 4. It doesn't mean that they have to be, approved. If they're not approved by 4, like if they're submitted and then they can figure it out, then you can get the information later. But in my mind, I just feel like any move that's going to be made, if there are any, would be for a potential D-line like Randy Gregory type at the end of a draft pick type thing. But I would love to have Dalvin Tomlinson, Arden Key, Jadeveon Clowney, Calais Campbell, and you know what? Let's throw Cam Jordan in there too. If the Saints are looking to move off of their guy, let's bring him back to Cali as well too. I think everything would be defensive line oriented. I think they have confidence in everything else. No secondary members. They feel good about Renardo Green, who's been a stud. Same thing with Lenore and everything. Tashawn Gibson could be somebody that they sign just to bring in. I mean, that's completely fair. Like, to do that again, bringing in Tashawn Gibson doesn't mean that you stop playing Malik Mustafa. It's just that doesn't make sense. Like, so right now, what you're looking at is you're probably looking at a team that feels good about all their reinforcements coming back. They feel good about the team that they're bringing back, and they feel good about the spot that they're in. So I wouldn't be shocked if John Lynch walked to the podium and said our deadline acquisitions was Feliciano, McCaffrey, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall. And I'm just like, dude, they were already on the team. But it's hard to see the 49ers pass up, with high draft capital for somebody else.
Yeah, and with the pick, the draft that they've just had, that's early returns on it has been great. Like, that would make you second guess a little bit too, because it's like, hey, like, we nailed our last draft. Look at how all these guys are contributing. Like, we've needed them. They've helped us. Let's do it again next year, kind of thing, with the picks that we have. So, I mean, it's like I said, it's not exciting. It's not sexy when your team doesn't make a move at the trade deadline. Everyone wants their team to do it, but I think we can all understand the team's line of thinking right now, that what they have should be enough, right? I think, and we know that. That's what's been so frustrating about how this season has started so far for this team. Like, more or less, at least on offense, like more or less the same team as last season, maybe even an upgrade when you think about Dominic Pooney and McCaffrey coming back, right? So yeah, they should be able to get it done with who they have. It'll be tough, but I mean, you got to make it work. So I'm not mad at it if they didn't make a move at all. But Jay, if Christian McCaffrey is going to be our trade deadline acquisition post bye week,
no pressure, buddy. No pressure, buddy.
Right. Well, I think he loves pressure and he loves like the opportunity to be back out there. He, by all accounts, looked like he was 100%, like going 100%, maybe even the usual 110% for Christian McCaffrey on the practice field this week for the 49ers bonus practice. Are you surprised by that at all? Like this dude, like he couldn't wait to get back on the field. And of course he was going to go all out the first chance he got.
I love it. Honestly, at this point, look, we have to trust the 49ers that they've played this the right way with his health. And, you know, McCaffrey is going to work harder than anybody and do everything he can to be on the field. Those two things are definitely true. Now, the thing that has me more excited is now you're really getting into a spot where you can use McCaffrey as a weapon and not overuse him because Mason and Guerendo still need to be a part of this. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that in terms of, well, he's the offensive player of the year. He should play every snap. No, that's what got us in this predicament to start. Now you've seen that you can run the football with Mason. Now you see that you have a guy with Guerendo who can be a little bit more of a splashier runner at times, especially going up against a terrible Tampa Bay run defense going into this game. So you have to use him strategically. And it has to be when you're in the red zone. I don't want to see anybody but Christian McCaffrey in the red zone, right? I don't want to see it, right?
They're down.
You've been able, right? Third down, you got to be on the field. You've been able to move the football up and down. That has not been the issue with the 49ers this season at all. But strategically deploying Christian McCaffrey in high leverage situations, red zone, or when you've got to have it, fourth down, third down, whatever, that's kind of where you've got to be. Sliding Christian McCaffrey into a every down role, it feels a little irresponsible, just a little bit. And off of the back of the fact that Mason has been able to stand up, pass pro, do everything that you want. Maybe you know that they're not going to throw the football to him because they just haven't. You know, that maybe takes that element of surprise away from it. But Christian McCaffrey has to be leveraged into high leverage situations and times where he's going to be most effective. And you still have guys that should play behind him. The days of Christian McCaffrey being around every single down should be gone. Now, I wouldn't be shocked if McCaffrey went out there and he played 98% of the snaps and was actually dominant or whatever. I'm just saying, in my head, I probably wouldn't go all in right away. Let's ease him in. And when you need him against Buffalo, against Green Bay, and those might be the games that you can see. Using Christian McCaffrey should be specific to situations and the team against you and your situation, right? If you don't need Christian McCaffrey for every down, don't play him every down. I mean, last year, for God's sakes, we were like, this game's over. Why is Christian McCaffrey still in, right? That's the type of thinking that I'm thinking, like, with him. If you need it, and this is a gotta-have-it game, and you got to win against the Green Bay Packers to keep pace, and essentially your season's on the line, you know what? Let's go. Like, this is your time. But if we're talking about, like, a game that you should easily win against the Bucs or against other teams, then yeah, like lay off a little bit. Dazzler says they've blown a lot of first and second round picks the last few years. Maybe it'll be better to trade for known quantities than draft them. This is a very good sentiment.
We say that all
That's
the
time. What the Rams did. The Rams said, let's take the crapshoot of the lottery out, right? Of the draft. Let's take it out. Let's get this guy and this guy who we know are going to be good, and let's go all in and they win a title. Now, the flip side of that is if you don't get the title, then you've burned those resources. But if you do get it, you've at least gotten one. But Steph, again, do you want to be a team that's perennially around all the time? And here come the Rams again. So let me not like talk them out of it or whatever. But this is an interesting sentiment. Do you take the crapshoot of the draft out of it by going with known quantities? And they've got to be of age, by the way. That's your qualifier right there. That is your caveat. They have to be guys that you know are going to be around for a little while. I think I feel better about that. But it does, like, the whole idea of going for a chip and then like recouping it on the back end and having to pay the bill later on. That's the interesting conversation. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm not interested in the 49ers making any rentals this year, unless it was like day 3 picks, maybe like day 3 picks for next year, whatever. But I agree with this sentiment too, that like teams can overvalue draft picks, right?
Hmm.
And if you're going for something that's known, that is good for you. So, and yeah, it takes the guesswork out of the draft. I mean, it's a way bigger risk to take a draft pick, use it, and have an unknown, right? Like anything could happen with said draft pick. In this case, like you said, you're taking the guesswork out of it. You're going for a known commodity, and yes, that usually what goes into that is the fact that you either have to pay that player what he's already due, or you gotta like re-sign them yourselves to a bigger contract. So that's always the tough part of it. But yeah, I mean, I agree with that line of thinking. Like if the 49ers were to make a trade, I'd want it to be for someone they could keep beyond this year. And I think that would be way more valuable than any draft pick that they'd possibly be saving by not doing it.
Right. And now Christian McCaffrey's back. And now everyone's starting to get into the idea of, well, it's time for them to make a run. And the funniest part is the 49ers might end up coming out of their bye week healthier than a lot of teams. And I joked around, saying that the 49ers were doing big brain things by getting their injuries out of the way early. And then they'll end up being healthy-ish towards the end. But it does appear like when you look around the league, and this is not me wishing on anything, and I think a lot of people have got me misconstrued when it comes to that because I've been making this point for a few weeks. This injury thing is happening to everyone. You can't cry and boo-hoo about it because it's happening to the 40. It's happening to everyone. Quarterbacks are down, linemen are down, wide receivers are down, running backs are down. All of these, we don't know what team's shape is going to be going into this game. If I would have told you a few weeks ago, the 49ers are going to head into the Tampa Bay game, and they're not going to have Mike Evans or Godwin, and Jalen McMillan was their third receiver, and he didn't even play. Sterling Shepard was the Bucs wide receiver 1 yesterday, and they were this close to winning. Just goes to show you that, they've got something there, going. It's not going to be an easy game at all. But looking at the schedule, we don't know what team shapes are going to be in when we get into them, right? When we get into a game where we're like, oh God, if it's Buffalo, Mark Cooper missed this week. What if he's out that game? What if Khalil Shakir's out that game? What if James Cook? We don't know. So this is the part that makes the deadline a little bit weird because you have a chance to add, but you have your reinforcements. And then if you add, you're saying something about your team going forward that you believe we're this little bit away. But adding could be the difference between you and a different team based on what week you get them, right? You understand what I'm saying? Seattle hasn't had DK Metcalf for a few weeks. That doesn't help. Everyone is banged up. So this is my thing is proactive, not reactive. And the 49ers have shown themselves to be that way. And they have. Last season, Randy Gregory, Chase Young. I love both those moves. Regardless of whether it worked out and they didn't win the Super Bowl clearly, those were smart moves because they're rentals and you're going for it. And it doesn't cost you nothing going for it. This is the part and the 49ers have to weigh very heavily. And this comes from the belief that they have in the players in their locker room. If they believe in the guys that they drafted, I love that. You know what? I'd rather you go down with the ship and be convicted in the guys that you drafted. You traded up for this guy. You traded up for that guy. Go let them play. Go show some conviction in that. But it's an awkward situation because there are available pieces for cheap, and these pieces won't knock your socks off, but everything it comes down to depth. And at the end of the year, the war of attrition is going to come down to the last man standing and who's next man up. That's the part that I think is a little bit frustrating for 49ers fans is, yes, you want to see splashy additions and you want to see additions to your team that will impact the team, but sometimes those additions don't come with a splashy name or they don't come with a impact position. The depth, having that before it happens, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. That's the best way I could put it, Steph.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. That's why, even though some of us aren't really thinking about safety as a need for the 49ers, certainly isn't. I agree. Malik Mustafa should continue to start. You already have Jair Brown. We don't know if Hufanga is going to come back, right, this season. You still have George Odom, but he plays special teams for the most part. That's why I'm hey, if the Sean Gibson is interested in coming back, that's depth, right? And I think those cheap depth options are out there for the 49ers. And that's where I'd be willing to take a rental, right? When it is just something like you're barely giving up anything, but it is something that ultimately does help your team out. I would be totally down for them to do that. And I think those options are there for them, right? And it may be even some names aren't being thrown out there yet. Because, John likes to do some due diligence and call up
due
teams.
diligence season is all that.
His due diligence season. So we'll see, right? But I definitely wouldn't be mad at that if that's the route that they went, maybe even a position we haven't even thought of yet, just to shore up some depth. I wouldn't be mad. I wanted to go back to the Christian McCaffrey thing because
sure. I think we kind of went off script.
No, I'll go
100%.
Because at this point, I think the only person in the world that would be like, we have to have Christian McCaffrey in for every snap would be Christian McCaffrey himself.
Right.
He's the only one that I think would fight that. And so I think that's a bit of the challenge for the 49ers. Like we've been saying, you got to protect Christian McCaffrey from himself. And I think that's easier said than done because I know like he looks upset on the sideline when he's not in, all those things. But I think everyone would agree, and hopefully the 49ers agree too, like coaches, that we can't afford to have him every single snap, wear him down, knowing what he went through this entire offseason or, first half of the season, just trying to get back to the field, right? So I'd take it easy, right? And I think Christian has to know that. Like he needs to know that, hey, like we have to dial your carries back a little bit. And what you were saying, Jay, about like we need to use Christian in certain games, like certain scenarios I agree with, but certain games where like it's a really tight game, that's a slippery slope. The 49ers have been in like tight games like all season, it feels like, or they've been like losing in some of those games too. So what would happen if that were the mindset? Christian McCaffrey would end up getting like 99% of the carries. So I don't want that either, right? I think you still have to be smart with it. You have to trust in Jordan Mason and maybe even Isaac Guerendo too, to be able to alleviate some of those snaps for Christian, even in a tight game. I mean, that's just what you have to do at this point, because otherwise you could be hurting Christian McCaffrey in the long term, right? And you don't want that either, because you want him healthy for next season too. So it's tough, right? I think it's easier said than done. But at this point, I think all 49er fans would be on board with him taking a step back a little bit. And even just having him there for those red zone trips, for those third downs, would go a long way to making a huge difference for this team. Like the 49ers still one of the top teams at getting to the red zone, right? Like, so they're getting drives together. They're getting there. It's just like that finishing factor. That's where you're going to need Christian. And that's where even 50%, 75%, 80%, maybe even of Christian McCaffrey could get you over that hump for those third downs, for those red zone trips. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough, but I definitely would hate to see him there every snap. Even if he performs well against the Bucks and he looks like the same dude, because that's going to get people thinking, oh, like he's fine, he's 100%. Let's not forget that this type of injury he was dealing with was more of a wear and tear kind of injury, right? So like it's tread on the tires. So you want to be careful with that too, even if he looks like his old self, which I'm sure he does because he works at that. Even if he does, remember, like even days before the 49ers said we got to shut him down, like he was at practice, like going 110%. So let's not get too excited. But yeah, definitely gotta reel him back a little bit.
Here's an idea, and I'm not smarter than you, Kyle Shanahan. I'm probably not smarter than the average person. But here's one. You run a ton of 21 personnel, right? Why not have Jordan Mason in the backfield with Christian McCaffrey and use Christian McCaffrey to get space on linebackers and run the football and maximize his impact? Let's throw him the football and get him the ball, which doesn't negate him being on the field, but the in-between tackle stuff should be limited. Let's get Christian McCaffrey out in space on these choice routes against these linebackers. Let's get him moving against somebody. Let's split him out wide. There's ways to maximize his potential without running him into the ground. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be everything just, in between the tackles, right? Like, for me, I feel like you can run 21 personnel. That's not a problem. You're going to. You just run it with Juszczyk. But Mason being there allows the defense to at least think that there's a chance you can hand the football off while looking to see if you have an advantageous matchup with Christian McCaffrey. And we can get Christian McCaffrey back into running routes out of the backfield that are not checkdowns, by the way. They're not checkdowns. That's not what this is called. It is called a matchup. It's not a checkdown. He can't be a checkdown if he's the first read. You get him in space, choice route against a linebacker, whip his ass, Brock Purdy throws him the football. Now you've got green grass in front of him, and you've gotten him the football while not letting him get killed up the middle, rushing the football. Just a thought. Just a thought. Again, I am no smarter than the average man, definitely not smarter than Kyle Shanahan. This just feels a way that you can get him going, and you can use him and maximize his potential without risking him too far.
Yeah, I agree with that. We got a couple of super chats from Junior. It says, Bully Ball Podcast, fire emoji, fire emoji. Hello, Steph and Jason. Which position should the 49ers upgrade before the deadline? I'm thinking interior D lineman. It's pretty much what we've been saying as well. Definitely defensive line, whether it's interior or pass rusher. That would definitely be the move I would make. And I think you agree too, right, Jay?
Dalvin Tomlinson. I would love that move. That doesn't sound like a sexy name, but he is going to be a guy who chews up blocks. He is going to make things easier for Bosa and Leonard Floyd. They're not going to be able to match up the best way that they can. Tomlinson's an experienced defensive tackle. Calais Campbell's in the same boat. But if you're asking me between the both of them, I would say Dalvin Tomlinson over Calais Campbell. Calais Campbell's got to be like a last-ditch resort to what's left. But 100%. I just think that that's a better way to go. And Corey says, it low-key annoys me that we're talking about paying this quarterback $60 to $65 million, while also saying we need a running back in order to win. That's the wrong dynamic and below my criteria. Steph, I'll let you go.
Not any running back. I mean, this is Christian McCaffrey. And the thing is, we've gotten accustomed to a certain level of play from this offense that a lot of it is attributed to Christian McCaffrey. Like, you got to remember how the numbers on this offense exploded after he joined this 49ers team. So I think that's the standard that we've now set for this offense, and anything lower, I think we're kind of just not comfortable with it as much. But it's not to say that Brock Purdy can't win without Christian McCaffrey. Like, the 49ers are 4-4. Sure, like I understand the context around all of that hasn't looked so pretty throughout all this, but I think it'll look better in the second half of the season. I mean, my opinion on how much Brock should get paid this offseason has fluctuated quite a bit, like throughout this year. It might be different at the end of the year, and I'm sure maybe the 49ers feel the same. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about Christian McCaffrey here. So yeah, of course, there's a bit of a different standard there.
And this brings me back to the same argument that I've been having for weeks. Why is it that Brock is judged on his weapons when we're all throwing a pity party for CJ Stroud and his poor play, but he doesn't have anybody? Oh, Patrick Mahomes needs somebody. They got to go out and get Hopkins. It almost feels like every single quarterback can use weapons. Because the CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy thing came up during the bye week. You know what? I touched grass this entire week. I'll let y'all have it. But here's my 2 cents on this as well, too. Oh, the line's bad. Oh, okay. Where have I heard that before? Oh, he's missing Nico Collins. Oh, okay. Where have I heard that before? Oh, Stephon Diggs got hurt. Okay, well, where have I? But why is it never Brock Purdy's missing Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle at times, but yet you expect him to perform over the standard, but CJ Stroud gets a pass. And CJ Stroud, we all thought going into this year was going to be a stud. He's played like shit. I don't care what anybody says. Watch the tape. He has not played well this year, but you get a pass. But Brock Purdy needs the Avengers. Seems like almost everybody needs somebody. Right? It's funny. Josh Allen needs Amari Cooper. He's a stud. He needs Amari Cooper, right? Everybody needs. No one has won a Super Bowl throwing to mailmen and postmen or DoorDash drivers. But this argument that continues to come up about Brock Purdy is he needs all this to be successful, and then you cry for other quarterbacks when things aren't going their way. I don't get that part. I really don't get that part. CJ Stroud's line isn't good? Cool. Cry me a river. You know whose line isn't good? Ask 49ers fans. They'll tell you. Deebo Samuel's injured for a game. George Kittle's out. Christian McCaffrey's been out. Brandon Ayuk's out for the year. Okay. I don't care. Everybody needs to start keeping that same energy with everybody. Everybody. Because now everyone needs somebody. Oh, we got to get Hopkins to Patrick Mahomes because Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice are hurt. You know, and Kelsey's washed, right? We got to get him Hopkins. The Ravens are about to have one of the best EPA per play offenses in the world. But you add Deontay Johnson because you need a little bit more. It's different standards for different everybody, and it always just falls on Brock. Like, you need to lift this entire team when you have no weapons. But everybody else, come here. Poor CJ Stroud. Come here. Sit on the chest real quick. It's crazy to me. Aaron Rodgers is trading for all his old buddies. The team stinks. It's everybody needs somebody. But when it comes to Brock Purdy, he's nobody without any of them. I just don't understand that part.
Yeah, I mean, it is frustrating. I mean, we've seen the goalpost move time and time again when it comes to Brock and the standards that, you know, have kind of been set sometimes unfairly for him. And let's face it, like, there's a reason Brock Purdy was the last pick in the draft. There are some limitations to his game. He's not perfect. So, I mean, yeah, like to a certain extent, he is going to need some weapons, like maybe more so than a Patrick Mahomes. But, I mean, still, that's most quarterbacks in the league, as Jay was saying. So, yeah, we need to just put that one to rest. I mean, I think we can argue about what, like I said, Brock should get paid after this season. I'm certainly thinking about a number I wouldn't want to go over. But
hold on. Second year of rebuild. The Texans signed Danielle Hunter, Azeez Al-Shaair, Jimmy Ward. They already had Derek Stingley, Jalen Petrie, Nico Collins. They're in no rebuild of anything. They need to compete right now because they have a quarterback on a small contract window. The Texans are not thinking that this is like, oh, well, you know, we kind of hope. No, they have eyes on the AFC Championship. That was the goal going into the season. Now that it's not going that way, you can't change the way that they thought going into it. Danielle Hunter isn't a pickup that you make because you think, you know, oh, whatever, we're rebuilding. No, that's a premium edge rusher. And you've got all these guys that you have for cheap. They've drafted most of those guys, which is part of the reason that they're able to spend on all these other guys. The Texans had eyes on the AFC Championship. They're not looking at this season like, oh, we made the divisional round last year. We don't care. No, they think they were going to go a little bit further. That's not the same thing at all. Don't make it seem like this is a team that just stumbled last year in. It was a team that everybody looked at like the sexy pick to jump up and be in the AFC Championship title, like the discussion. Like, it's not the same thing, in my opinion. They went and they made moves that put them in a position to go forward and go like and be in the AFC title game. We got 57 minutes. This trade deadline is still not done. But regardless of that, all of that, like going forward, like when you look at this team and you look at everything that you're getting back, right? I looked around today and I wanted to see what the NFL was thinking about the 49ers, about their chances, you know, going forward. And Steph, I'm gonna lay it out pretty quickly. And I'm gonna go through a few websites that have the 49ers where they're at. So Nick Wagner, who does an amazing job for ESPN, the 49ers fell 2 spots somehow on their bye week. Okay. I mean, that's fine. But Nick Wagner believes that Sunday's game is their most important remaining game on the schedule going forward. And he says the Bucks game is only important because it's next on this isn't only important because it's on the Niners schedule, but because of what the game could tell us about where the season is headed. I agree. The 49ers have made a habit of kicking into gear post by under Kyle Shanahan. Since Shanahan took over in 2017, the Niners are 43-18 after their bye week. San Francisco is also expecting McCaffrey back. How he looks and how the 49ers fare should offer strong clues. NFL.com has them moving up one spot to 13. And he says, we're into November. Eric Edholm says, we're into November, which is traditionally when Kyle Shanahan's team make their move. True, past 49ers clubs have been able to be more successful on a whole than this one, which started 3-4. But the expected return of Christian McCaffrey lifts their profile, even with the resurgent Rams and Cardinals giving the Niners some serious competition in the NFC West. USA Today gave one of the best jokes in the world when it came to it was Sports Illustrated. It was Connor Orr. He says, we shipped the Giants and Panthers to Germany this coming weekend for a truly horrid international game. In return, the Germans sent us back Christian McCaffrey. Talk about a trade deficit. Basically, the reason that I'm pointing this out is everyone seems to point to the history of the 49ers doing this, but there's still skepticism about them being able to do it again. And I think that's very fair. History is the greatest indicator of future, of, what's going to happen in the future, right? But this season just feels a little bit different just based on the schedule. And you and I have talked about this, right, Steph?
Yep.
So it feels a little bit different this year than it does in past seasons. We can't just keep saying because they've done it before, they will do it again. We can say they have done it before, so there's a chance they can do it again. But the idea of because they've done it before, they will do it again, that's the part that's off for me just a little bit.
Yeah, and we've been saying it, like, to me, it's dangerous. It's a slippery slope to continue to be comfortable, to continue to normalize, like, hey, well, the 49ers always start slow. They'll be fine. They'll end up in the playoffs, and they could very well end up in the playoffs as a wild card team. Hell, I mean, even the NFC West is still in their sights. But I still think like it's only a matter of time before these slow starts catches up to this team, right? And I think this season, like we're kind of seeing it because, like I said, there's so many muddling teams right now, so many teams like in the middle, a few in the NFC West as well. Like all four teams in NFC West are pretty close, pretty neck and neck right now. Anything can happen in these like next few weeks, the second half of the season. So I don't know what's going to happen there. But it's too close for comfort. So that's what I'm saying. Like for me, that I have less hope in this team than I've had in the past. I think some of that has to do with injuries, but also, I don't know, it's just the circumstances outside of just this team. Because when you are in this back against the wall, we have to win out. We have to win all of our games. That is very much dependent on everything going right, not just injuries, but also other teams losing. Can you depend on that luck every single season? I don't know. This season, like, I really don't know. And because there's so many teams in it, there's so many teams, like, pretty much in the same position that the 49ers are, who, by the way, are making moves at the trade deadline, are making their team better right now. I think like that's why I'm a little hesitant to be as optimistic. I understand, like Rob showed me this, the reasons for optimism before the bye week. Kyle Shanahan's 25 of 37. That's crazy. After the bye week, 43-18. Of course, we know there's a lot of more context that goes into all of that, but that's a big enough sample size to say that Kyle Shanahan historically has been better after the bye. So I'm holding on to some hope, right? Like this is still my team, right? But I think I have less optimism than I have in the past. And just because I know like it is a matter of time before these slow starts come back to bite them. That's where I'm looking at it.
Yeah, you can't keep relying on the past, right? Like to dictate the future. And that's fine. But let's do it. We're going to do it to end the show. Niners Bucks. Who wins? Niners.
No, I'm gonna give it to the Bucks. I think. What did I say last week? I don't even remember when we did the.
I think you said. I think
Did
you
I
said
say
yeah,
Niners?
but
Did
yeah.
I say Niners?
Ooh, whoa.
Which like it could go either way. It really could go either way. And I think they could, right? They could, but I think people people aren't giving the Bucks enough respect.
No,
and
honestly,
I get
they
it.
played really well last night.
They're
played
really
well
good.
last night.
And even the week before that, like they've been good this season. I have Baker Mayfield as my like quarterback in a couple of fantasy leagues. He's been doing well. All right. So he's not the Baker of old. And maybe, Nick Bosa will get a sack or two on his old buddy, but still, I think they're doing more with less, right? Like they're missing their top two receivers, yet they have Bucky Irving, Rashad White, both who are very good. And because they have such different like elements to their game, that makes them kind of hard to defend because you don't really know what you're gonna get. Like Bucky Irving's super elusive. His cut, like he makes defenders miss. So I'm a little nervous about that part of it. And Cade Otton has been incredible. Like he has stepped up big time. I also have him in a couple of leagues too.
Oh.
You like that stack? Baker Mayfield and Otton has been pretty nice.
I just like the Cade Otton part, even though he just I lost one league by like 0.7 points. All he had to do was catch one more pass at the end of that game, and he just didn't. But fine.
Okay. Well, no, like those. So that's been Baker's main target since having the two other guys go down.
He's the number one receiver for them.
He's the number one. Yeah.
Sterling Shepard was their number one receiver last night.
The other guys are like, they're getting their bearings still. So it could go either way. I think a lot of it depends on how Christian McCaffrey looks and what he does to lift that offense. Because if the 49ers, like I'm saying, like if they can just convert their red zone trips to touchdowns and they're scoring 30 plus, like, we know they could, then yeah, they can win any game. Right. But I think it's I got to see it first, Jay. I got to see it first. I want to see what Christian McCaffrey looks like. I want to know if they ease him in, like, what is that going to look like? I do have to say, like, the Bucks playing in overtime on a Monday night game, that's big. That's big, right? But 49ers also traveling, also in a time zone,
short week for Tampa.
Early body clock game. The 49ers typically don't do too well with those. So I'm gonna see. We got to see it first. But I think the Bucks can squeeze it out.
No, I got the Niners, man. Short week. They're shorthanded. The 49ers finally, for once, are the rested team going into a game. Call me an eternal optimist, but I think the 40, like even when
they have to.
No, but even when Evans and Godwin were there last year, we whipped up on them. So I don't, like I have a hard time.
This is a different team than last year. Like they don't even look like that team.
It is. But I think again, if Sterling Shepard goes out there and runs out there as the wide receiver one, I will raise hell if the 49ers don't do what I think they should do against them. Like, come on. Definitely not that Stephen A. Can CMC play edge against Bosa? Opposite Bosa? Hey, he might. He's pretty I would never put it past him. CMC missed a perfect opportunity to dress as Achilles for Halloween, the Tin Man. Hey, look, when you're with a woman, she's usually going to make those choices. You don't really get to make those choices. So that's where it is.
Why he looks so upset. That's why.
Yeah, he did.
Now we know.
All right. You ready? Let's rapid fire this real quick so we can get out of here and get everybody to get into this trade deadline and yelling at John Lynch on Twitter. Week 11, Seahawks at the crib. Niners,
yeah.
Okay. At Packers, week 12, Sunday night. 4:25 start.
L.
I think the Packers win that game too. At Bills, 8:20 Sunday evening.
Oh.
Yeah, I think so too. Bears win. The Bears look terrible. Did you see DJ Moore running off the field like during a play? Like that's insane to me. Yeah, the Bears are a mess.
You went full Antonio Brown?
Right, but just shame on the Bears for drafting Caleb Williams and saying, all right, we're going to give him to a defensive head coach. Makes no sense. None at all. So, yeah, Bears, W. Rams, December 12th. Woo, baby.
L.
Wow, Steph.
Yeah.
I got them winning. I got them winning. Go. Take the floor. You got it. I got them winning. You take the floor.
Because And I understand, like, me being like this pessimistic is
Thursday
different.
Night Football
Like, you
too.
guys never see me like this, but
Thursday
Thursday
Night
Night
Football.
Football, dude, the Rams look good, and like, look, that defense, those young play, their defensive line has been cooking. So I gotta give them some respect. We also know Matthew Stafford's still the best quarterback in the NFC. So I'm gonna give it to the Rams to pull that one out.
Wow. Man.
Sorry.
All right.
Sorry,
All
I gotta
right.
see it. Hey,
No, we got-
maybe next week I'll think differently about this team.
Steph, we got 3 more. All right. December 22nd in balmy Miami.
The 49ers won that one.
Yes, I think that's a win as well. Against the Lions, December 30th, week 17.
L.
That's a L, I think so as well too. And at the Cardinals, January 5th, they probably are going to be playing for a playoff spot in that game.
I think they win. They get some get back on the Cardinals.
Dub me up. My goodness, Steph, what is going on with you, man? I don't know what we get out of the bye week. We get out of the bye week, and you're brand new.
People hating my hate right now. I'm not hating on the Niners. What I think it is, though, Jay, I think I'm preparing myself for anything. Right. So like if something like it's like reverse psychology, right? So like if the 49ers do well, then it's like we're back, you know, we are so back. Yeah, you guys are going after me in the comments, but I don't think they're going. I
don't think they're going after you. I think they're just shocked. That's all.
Because it is shocking.
Usually you're on the side of like, hey, this could happen. This is what's, you know, like right now, like I'm not shocked that you calling any of those other games L's. I'm shocked that you calling this Sunday game coming up an L. That one is crazy. Off a short week with them being as short-handed as they are.
I think the Bucs are better than people think.
I'll tell you this.
That's the only reason.
I'll tell you this. If the 49ers don't get it done on Sunday, their season is cooked. Absolutely cooked. Like, not like I don't want to hear about playoffs and a run. None of that. Sunday needs to be, and that's what Nick Wagner was talking about. Sunday needs to be get it done one way or another. Wins are wins, and that's an NFC win. You lose that game, and you lose me for the season. I'm sorry. The Bucs are just really bad at everything that they're doing. They're shorthanded. I mean, not everything on defense. They're shorthanded right now. But yeah, woo. Steph,
I obviously I want them to win. I
mean, clearly that's a caveat though. That's a qualifier, but it's just like, damn. I mean, I know that we get on here and we're like, oh, the Niners are gonna win every week, and we lay out the scenario how they do, right? Like, and then they don't, right? And then we have to explain why they didn't. But yeah, you know, coming off the bye week, the vibes are super high. Christian McCaffrey and Ricky Pearsall are dancing together, and he's breaking down the huddle. Like we're moving. What is it they say? You attract what you're scared of. You know what I'm scared of? A Lombardi. I'm scared. I'm super scared of winning a Super Bowl trophy, right? Like they say you attract what you're scared of. I am super scared of the 49ers winning a Super Bowl and being very rich. Like there, I'm scared of it. Boom. That's what I'm attracted.
Damn. Oh, I'm getting cooked in the comments though.
Nah, it's fine. You're not getting cooked. I think
not Rob putting up the
right, and he's the worst too. Like, yeah, like the look. This has been a great episode, almost an hour. Today is a very, very critical day. So I just want to say before we get out of here, and I do, you know, the talk to get out, don't blame me. I voted for Kodos. This is another episode of Bully Ball Podcast on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. My name is Jason Aponte. That is Steph Sanchez. Make sure you follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network wherever you get your audio podcasts. Like and subscribe to this video on the YouTube channel as well. Follow Steph on Twitter at Steph49K. Follow me on Twitter at JasonAponte2103. Follow both of our YouTube channels as well, too. You know, there might be some good content in it as well, too. We're back. Bye week's over. Niners are going to beat the hell out of the Bucs. And I'm going to make sure I dunk on Steph on Tuesday, like, when it comes to that. Like, after they win by, like, a lot, I'm just going to be like, and I haven't figured out who's going to have a big game yet, but I will get to it, and I will figure it out. The 49er fans should be loud and proud in Tampa, but as always, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate all you guys for all your comments and donations and watching. And as always, go Niners. Peace.